Well, the Lone Star Showdown is in the books and ends with a Texas sweep, but that's not just the story. The story is they won by 1 run in every single game, so A&M just needed one more swing of the bat to get that win. Of course, they didn't, though, and it all kind of comes down to the situational hitting in this one.
Yeah, it was pretty atrocious. In the first 2 games of the series, Texas A&M went 0 for 14 with runners in scoring position. Today, they got 4 hits with runners in scoring position, but it ended the series 4 for about 30 opportunities, which when you get into these big-time games, whether it be here, whether it be in a regional or any of the postseason, it's the team that gets those timely hits that usually advances, and they weren't able to get that hit when they really needed it late in the game in any of the games, and for that they're swept for the first time by Texas since 2010.
And their first sweep this season, because they've been rolling recently since, I guess, when they were at Vanderbilt, which was over a month ago. So it's been a while since they've even lost a series, and it's been a while since they've been swept. Now, again, this is a top-ranked Texas team, and I think they showed it, what they're capable of, because they did kind of get that one timely hit. First 2 games were kind of pitcher's duels. This one felt a little bit different right from the start.
It was still 2 great pitching performances, but it was a little bit more wide open offensively. The thing about it is A&M only had 1 home run in this series, and that was the Caden Sorrell home run in this game. They almost went 3 straight games without a home run for the first time this season if it wasn't for that late Caden Sorrell hit. But they were making loud contact. Bear Harrison, I don't know how many times he hit it to the warning track. I believe Jace Laviolette had one that was at the warning track. This is a pitcher's park. I know, and I will say it confidently, the reason that A&M has the home run numbers they usually have is because Bluebell Park is a hitter's park.
Very friendly.
Right, they've proven they can hit home runs at Omaha and other not pitchers' parks, but this was a pitcher's park, and it was going to contain a lot of balls, and they did that to the Aggies this weekend.
Obviously, going into this, kind of the big thing surrounding it was, what was it going to be like for Jim Schlossnagle facing his former team? And we kind of got a taste of it all weekend of, what that was like. And he admitted that the first day was very emotional for him, just, kind of seeing everybody. And I'm sure it was maybe a little uncomfortable for him. I don't know, what was your take of just kind of seeing Schloss again early, how they kind of, everybody handled all that around this rivalry?
I was actually talking to a Texas fan. I was up here getting a drink at one of the concession stands before the game and having a nice conversation with a Texas fan. And, he said he was coming into this series thinking it was going to be like at each other's throats, both on the court, on the field and up in the stands. And he was like, it's kind of average. There was the little little verbal dust up yesterday in the game, but up until late in this game, it kind of just felt like any other SEC weekend, which I think was a testament maybe to both the teams that they kind of made it just any other SEC weekend. But the end of last game is when the things kind of started getting ratcheted up, and it did feel, even though the crowd might have been a little bit less today, it did feel like the emotions were ratcheted up a little bit higher in this game.
They were. I think a lot of that had to do with they found themselves behind several times to start. That A&M took a 2-0 lead, so I think there's a little bit more emotion of anytime Texas would tie it up or anytime they would take the lead, and because the way that this whole weekend has gone. With it being a 1-run game, a 1-run win in each game for Texas, I think that's kind of, even with a lesser crowd, it did feel like more energized, just kind of the way these games have gone. And if you're Texas A&M looking forward, I don't think you're in a really a bad spot. I mean, I think you still are in a good spot and still have a way to control your own destiny.
Yeah, I think there's 2 things to look at here. And, this actually kind of feels a little bit like that's the same setup and conversation we had after Texas A&M played Texas in basketball or across the street at the Moody Center.
Yeah.
Like, they still...
And that was a 1-point loss?
Right. It was a 1-point loss at the buzzer beater. Like A&M, when we were talking to Caden Sorrell and we were talking to Michael early after this, they feel like they're still okay and still kind of in the driver's seat to be able to make the postseason. Now, I think everybody who watched this team last year and knows the talent that's on this team didn't think that they would be in a season where they're having to be nervous about if they're going to make the postseason or not. But that's, first-year head coach getting back to the NCAA tournament. That is going to be a huge step and a huge thing that they need to do. The number's always been 13. If you can get to 13 wins in the SEC, you're pretty much always going to get to the NCAA tournament. That's a graphic they always put up on the SEC network since 1999. 60-something, 70% of teams that make it to 13 wins go on to the NCAA tournament. If you break that down into teams that get 13 wins and are inside the top 30 in RPI, it's 100%. Like, you get inside the top 30, you're good to go. That's the one thing that this game is going to hurt. If they could have gotten one win here, that's going to boost their RPI. We saw they're right at about 47 or 40, low 40s.
Yeah.
They're low 40s right now. So they need to jump 10 spots. Now, beating Tennessee, that jumped them from 91 to 50. So it can really, you can get some really big jumps depending on who you win.
They've got a top 5 RPI coming up against LSU, so that's obviously going to be a huge weekend.
And another top 5 in Georgia to close out the season. Now, they have to take care of business against Missouri, and the fact that this Tuesday they're playing a Lamar team who's playing really good baseball this year. That's not going to be your average low RPI midweek game that it's better to not play than to actually go out there and play. That's going to be something that's going to actually maybe help them a little bit. But the two things you got to watch is they got to get to 13 wins. They got to, and it would even be better if they can get under 30 RPI with those 13 wins to be guaranteed to get in to the postseason. But then they're probably going to be traveling. There was a little talk about it. If they could have taken care of business this week and then taken care of business won the series against LSU and Georgia, they could have maybe been in the hosting talk, which is wild.
Yeah, from where they've come a month ago.
Right. But I think by getting swept here this weekend, that's going to be a pretty long shot. The numbers I don't think are there to get them into that hosting. So if they make it in, they'll probably be traveling in the first round.
But and we've been kind of looking at some of the potential sites. Traveling to probably some tough regionals, wherever they end up. But they have a chance to get there. They're at 8 wins right now. They need to get to 13. It seems very doable. I don't know. Do you see this team, I guess, breaking that threshold?
Yeah, they have to sweep Missouri. Missouri is not a good team this year. They have to sweep Missouri. And then you're searching for a couple wins against LSU or a win against Georgia on the road. I think this series is going to be pretty big. If they somehow manage to get swept against LSU, they're going to be fighting for their postseason lives, and pretty much they're going to need to be pretty close to winning out to make it to the NCAA tournament, or they're going to need a deep run in the conference tournament. But as we've seen in basketball and sometimes in baseball, the conference tournament doesn't always help a lot.
No, I think they want to be safely in before they get to that.
Yes. So I mean, the name of the game is they just need to keep winning, and it's something they've done well. I think once they get back to Bluebell Park, a lot of these balls that were hit hard that didn't go out, they're going to get the benefit of doubt on those, and that'll get them a little bit more competitive. You're not going to probably have an outing like Weston Moss had today where he just couldn't find the strike zone, he's been nails for them all season.
Right.
And then if there is a bright spot to all of this, Caden Sorrell playing for the 3rd time out in the field this season after having that really bad hurt hamstring early, he's laying out making Superman dives and hitting home runs. I mean, he was maybe one of the biggest bright spots of the weekend for the Aggies.
Terrence Keel had some pretty good layouts too there in the outfield. A little scare on one of the first ones where it took him a while to kind of get up. He seemed like he kind of hurt himself a little bit.
And Caden Kent at shortstop. Caden Kent played some really great shortstop. And this turf is not easy to play ground balls on. There's a crown on the field. The balls just play completely different here than they do anywhere else. And for Caden Kent to flash the leather like he did, that was another bright spot. You feel for Terrence Keel a little bit too, though, because both the first 2 games he had an opportunity to be at the plate in the 9th inning to make something happen, strike out looking twice. That's just something that you learn from as a freshman, and he'll get opportunities again because he's shown that he is one of the most valuable players on the team.
Yeah, and we'll see what this experience, this kind of weekend does for them moving forward, and getting to the postseason and how well they do in the postseason. But again, it was one of those rivalry. We said before this was going to be a coin flip. Now I didn't think it was going to be I thought we'd be talking about a rubber match today. But when you look at all three games being as close as they were, I mean, it kind of was a coin flip. I just think right now Texas has proven they are a number one team. They have that experience. It probably helped being at home a little bit. But again, in the grand scheme of things, I know it stings emotionally for Aggie fans to lose 3 games in a row to your rivals, but I really do think that they kind of are in an okay spot, and we'll be fine moving forward as long as they, like we talked about, handle their business.
I want to ask you because I was up in the press box for the whole thing. There's windows. It's kind of hard to hear anything. You were out here amongst the people. How did we talked about this? Might be the most anticipated, most supercharged meeting of these two schools of all time because of all the drama and everything around it. How did you feel like the atmosphere was from actually being in and around it?
I thought today was the best atmosphere. I think it kind of took a next step with each game. First one might have been dampened a little bit by the rain too. I mean, there was that really long weather delay and raining. I think that kind of dampened things a little bit. The game didn't end till like midnight. And then you have the second game, which I felt a little bit more of the energy. Luckily, the weather was better today than yesterday. It felt really hot. But it seemed like with each game, there was a little bit more energy. Again, I think if this thing was in Bluebell with the return of Schlossnagle, the roof would have been blown off that place. I think it would have been kind of night and day almost, the atmospheres. So this might be, I mean, I haven't been in all the other SEC series here in Texas, but from what I've heard, this might be close to another SEC series as far as the atmosphere goes. Today definitely took the cake, though. They really got into it, especially, when you have Weston Moss come in and can't find the strike zone. They really, they were loving every bit of that.
The other thing that is interesting to me before we get out of here is the fact that A&M for years under Schlossnagle, when Mike Early was the hitting coach, even into this season, they haven't been a small ball program. They haven't been a program that is going to lay down a lot of bunts, try to utilize a lot of situational ground balls and everyththing like that. And they did do that somewhat effectively to try to get back into all of these games. They laid down a lot of bunts with Ben Royo, which, by the way, he had an outstanding series this year, this weekend as well. But you look at 2 bunts, one that he got down last night, one that he didn't get down tonight because of he hit it the wrong side of the field. It was an easy play to get the force out. They'll learn from that, and I'm curious to see that if this was the first weekend they really had to utilize that a lot, and if the going gets tough or they can't hit the ball out of the ballpark moving forwards at some instances, if they'll lean back on that and have learned from that a little bit, because I do think at times being complete like that is something that can catch a team off guard and can be useful at times.
We'll see how much they utilize that moving forward, kind of how much they learn from this weekend, and what we see from this team moving forward. And we'll see the first glimpse of that Tuesday at Bluebell Park against Lamar, and then they've got a big one hosting LSU, a top 7 team right now. But that'll do it. 6-5 the final in Game 3 here at the Lone Star Showdown. Texas completes the sweep. Here in Austin, for Travis Brown, I'm Tyler Shaw.